नमस्कार। रसोई के रहस्य के इस एक्सपर्ट टॉक के अगले एपिसोड में आप सबका बहुत बहुत स्वागत है। आज का एपिसोड बहुत एक्साइटिंग है, सिर्फ मेरे लिए नहीं बट उन सब सुनने वालों के लिए जो बहुत देर से इंतजार कर रहे हैं इसी चीज का।
रसोई के रहस्य आओ मिलकर खोले हम, रसोई के रहस्य आओ मिलकर खोले हम।
आपको आज मैं मिलवाने वाली हूँ मेरे एक्सपर्ट से, जो ऐसी एक्सपर्ट है जिन्होंने जिंदगी में बहुत कुछ कर दिखाया है एंड नॉट जस्ट कि एक काम किया तो बस कर डाला, बट जिंदगी में फैमिली के लिए, लाइफ के लिए ब्रेक लेकर उसके आगे निकल कर उन्होंने आज अपने आप को इस मुकाम पर लाकर रखा है। मेरे साथ आज हैं पेस्ट्री शेफ प्रिया भोपाल हैदराबाद से। हाय प्रिया, वेलकम टू रसोई के रहस्य।
Hi Payal, thank you so much for this introduction. I'm really touched.
आज जैसे पेस्ट्री शेफ आपने सुना तो आप समझ ही गए होंगे, ये हमारा पहला एपिसोड होगा इंट्रोडक्शन टू बेकिंग फ्रॉम शेफ प्रिया भोपाल। इनसे हम बहुत कुछ जानेंगे फ्रॉम टाइम टू टाइम, बट आज हमारा काम होगा इनसे बेसिक्स सीखने का। तो बिफोर आई मूव अहेड, आई एम गोइंग टू आस्क शेफ प्रिया भोपाल टू इंट्रोड्यूस हरसेल्फ टू अस। हमें ये बताएं कि ये कौन है और इन्होंने कहाँ से अपनी ये कला सीखी है। ओवर टू यू प्रिया, वीड लाइक टू हियर फ्रॉम यू।
Thank you. So I'm Priya. I'm a mother of 3. But my journey about the whole thing, I should start from the beginning. I'm actually an MBA. I studied in University of Wales in UK. Then I came back. I worked as an analyst in a venture capital firm. वहाँ से then initial उस दिन में, I mean those days in India we didn't have a lot of options. So I kind of anyways still worked for them, and then they wanted me to shift to Singapore, which didn't happen. I got married to a guy in Hyderabad and I wanted to stay back here. So I quit the job. वहाँ से कारवी स्टॉक ब्रोकिंग में काम किया मैंने. Then after my first child, I quit everything. I stayed home. Then after staying home for very long, 10 साल के बाद, then I realized after having my twins, after 3 children, I realized now I have to do something. That's when I went to London to specialize in cake decorating, which was a 3.5 weeks course with them. Mm-hmm. I finished that. Then I went to ICE in New York. Mm-hmm. I did small courses with them, which really I learned a lot basically there. Then from there I went to Cordon Bleu, Paris. Cordon Bleu, Paris is a place where I am very proudly today saying I'm a pastry chef because I got my diploma from them. Then I went to Spain to work under pastry chef. So I'm a qualified, I'm not just a pastry chef where we do small courses, but I'm a diploma holder and I have experience of working. So that's my introduction. But right now I'm very glad doing this, baking thing with you, Payal.
Thanks so much. Wow, that is such a fabulous journey. So हमारे सुनने वालों के लिए ये बहुत जरूरी है। हम लोग बहुत ऐसे लोग हैं जो किसी न किसी कारण जिंदगी में कहीं पर आकर रुक जाते हैं और वहां से आगे निकलना हमको मुश्किल लगता है। तो यहाँ पर शेफ की ये जो जर्नी है, इससे हमें भी कुछ ना कुछ तो डेफिनेटली मोटिवेशन मिलेगी कि लाइफ डजंट स्टॉप फॉर एनीबॉडी. वी हैव अ लॉट ऑफ वॉरियर्स.
And it should not.
We have a lot of warriors in our midst in any case.
Correct.
तो ठीक है. So आज थोड़ा सा बैकग्राउंड हम लोग जानेंगे बेकिंग के बारे में. यूजुअली हम लोग की जो इम्प्रेशन है, व्हाट वी पीपल जनरली थिंक कि बेकिंग का मतलब होता है कि जो केक्स भी बनाए, पेस्ट्रीज भी बनाए, ब्रेड भी बनाए, और मतलब जो भी अवन में से निकलता है वो हमारे हिसाब से एक ही जना करता है. That's a baker. So chef, why don't you tell us what is the distinction? As we were having a conversation just before we began this, that there is a distinction. There are very distinct branches in baking. So for the sake of information, please let us know कि ये कौन से branches.
Yeah, so I will tell you about this. When you go to a culinary school, you have 3 divisions. There is a person who cooks only the food, like what you get as a starter or a main course is a culinary chef. Mm-hmm. Then you have somebody who makes only desserts like anything which is sweet in your mouth, right? Mm-hmm. That is a pastry chef. Then there is another person who bakes only breads,
Right.
or that person he specializes in a field called boulangerie.
Okay.
So boulangerie chef has more knowledge about breads than any one of us. We all do a small courses. We had to do a small course in boulangerie bread baking.
Mm-hmm.
But a person who works for 3 years, studies the same thing, he is an expert and he's a boulangerie chef. He specializes in making breads.
Mm-hmm. So that's how
So
you
these are the
are
three
a
divisions.
pastry chef. You are
Yes, I'm
a
a
pastry chef and out.
Yes.
So you're going to teach us
So
how to add calories, basically.
Yeah, more calories. But good calories, okay? You guys will remember good calories only.
Yes, of course. I know that. I know you're very, very careful about suggestions with all of that. That's what I'm saying, that we have a lot of people who love to eat all this but love healthy eating as well. So we'll learn that from you, I think, here. जैसे chef ने हमें यहाँ पर बताया कि we are very clearly defined and divided into 3 groups. And Chef Priya Bhupal here is a pastry chef. So we will, eventually learn wonderful goodies from her and, really spoil ourselves rotten with all the wonderful things. So to begin this discussion up, most people have always asked कि हम bake करना सीखना चाहते हैं. We want to begin our journey in baking, in, basic baking at home.
Correct.
But उसमें अब what is involved, which means basic, we start with infrastructure and then we start with safety and then we get into material and so on and so forth. So आज के discussion में I would like to know from you about the equipment, things that we use to weigh, to measure, maybe to mix and to eventually also bake. So what are those things that we need to first keep in the house before we actually begin our journey in baking? So I'd like you to take us through that.
Okay. So first, I think, everybody, I'm sure if people don't want to invest in a oven, the only option I look at is an OTG.
Right.
Now there are a lot of OTGs which have come, Payal, which are very inexpensive and come with good, warranties and whatever.
Yes.
Or there is another option, as everybody knows, and I think as your mom must have done or my mom has done, we always did it on stove. Putting a hot sand, then putting something, a vessel in it, then closing it. So this is again a tedious work. Easiest is getting into OTG. Or if you still you become a pro and want to upgrade yourself, then you go to an oven. But that is the part of baking. I mean, in terms a hot thing I'm talking about. But I would say first invest in a nice gloves, a good quality gloves. Your gloves are something which is going to save you completely.
Absolutely.
Which covers till your, at least, 3/4 of your hand should be covered. Don't buy these cheap, don't buy these, small mittens kind of things or gloves which are just covering only fingers. Like if I have a 10 years old daughter, if my daughter wants to bake, if she's starting, I always give her a longer, thicker oven gloves. Please remember, it is called oven gloves.
Okay.
Invest in that. Even if it is an expensive affair, remember this is going to save you from burning.
Yes, absolutely.
That is the most important investment in when you start baking.
Right. Okay. Makes sense.
Once you have your good quality, whatever, and they have to be thick, okay? Because like we guys, when we bake in our this thing, we don't really use our gloves because we are so used to holding. We have a thicker napkin, a towel which is really thick. We fold it. We fold it in 2-3 folds and we hold it because we are used to it.
Correct.
Right. That is our profession. But like I told you, when my 10 years old daughter wants to start, I'm going to give her a good quality gloves. Please invest in that.
So will we be able to find something like this? Like most of us do a lot of buying online. So will we be
Amazon
able to find...
has it. Yeah. A lot of these online stores really have it, and now stores in India also have them. You go to a baking store, also has them.
Okay,
so
we should be able to find it
you
online.
You should have to. Yes, you can. 100% you can, because I bought a lot of times online.
Okay. Fine.
So you kind of keep at least 2 pairs because sometimes they become dirty and you have to wash your gloves, you know.
Right.
When you can't just put on that gloves which you use 10 times, you know, with all the cake batter on it and everything. It is very unhygienic. Please remember, as much as your burning is important, your safety is important, the hygiene is the most important thing, because this is going into the stomach.
Correct.
You know,
Absolutely.
any ingredient, please remember one thing: eggs, flour, butter, all these have to be good quality. You don't have to necessarily get organic. People say organic makes a lot of sense. No, I suggest you get basic but quality.
Absolutely.
Right? These are 2 things: hygiene and safety, most important part in baking or anything actually, in any form of eating your food. That is the most important part.
Correct.
Then you invest in very basic, because we are just starting basic. You know, you have to get a nice bulb whisk and whisk. Then you get a rubber spatula. Then everybody has bowls, steel bowls. I prefer steel. I'm not or maximum a glass bowl. I'm not a plastic person, because I feel when you put anything hot in a plastic, it gives out
toxins
into your food.
Toxins, yes,
So,
absolutely.
Yes, I am against that. So I get back to this. You need a whisk, you need a rubber spatula, you need bowls. Please remember, you cannot use these bowls to again cook, or you cannot put any onions in it and say I wash it. No, you're definitely, even if you wash 10 times, your cake is going to smell that.
That is true.
Then, of course, your gloves are the priority. Then, yes, you are now a pro. Then you get a hand blender. Okay, you know, they're very easy. It's just that, you know, when we started learning, Payal, we were not given any kind of equipment other than a whisk. Because when you whisk is when you understand how the butter is.
Absolutely.
You know, they say your fingers have to feel everything.
Also, we had beaters. We didn't even have whisks. We had egg beaters. We used to mix 2 spring beaters together and beat with them. I still remember so distinctly. So, yes, absolutely. Correct. I agree. Yeah. Machines come separately.
You need to feel. Yeah, you need to feel butter. You need to, when you open butter, feel it. You know, is it cold? Is it room temperature? Is it warm?
We are tactile people. We are, in any case, people who have very, very good sense of touch. So that works well for us. Yeah. We, in any case, touch everything. So
even for, you know what, Payal, it's not just one particular people have to do that. Everybody who gets into baking, please understand, you need to feel the product. You need to wash your hands and feel the product, you know.
Yeah.
When you touch butter, you know what kind of butter is it, what is sugar, what is flour. You close your eyes, you can make it out. Like I close my eyes, I can say which is castor sugar, which is a regular sugar, which is a brown sugar, right?
Right, absolutely.
So anyway, I'm going back to equipments again. We need gloves, very good quality gloves. Please protect your hands. Safety first. Then comes your clean bowls. Keep those bowls just for baking.
Right.
Then get your whisk. Get couple of them, because once you use egg thing and then you want to use for butter, you don't have to keep washing. Just invest in 2. Correct. Don't get those large ones. You know, you need to hold them in your hand. They have to come in your palm. Not the thick ones, you know, the medium size ones you need to get.
The handle is convenient. So the handle, you can hold the handle correctly in your palm. Correct. Okay.
Yes. And it has to be a bulb whisk.
Yes.
Steel one. You know, people
yes, we've spoken of bulb whisks. Yes, we've spoken of whisks earlier. Yeah.
Then we need, you know, more towels, you know, to wipe, clean the stations. Then we need measuring cups, measuring spoons.
What are the sizes that you suggest? I mean, measuring cups and spoons, we get labeled, of course, we get, I don't know whether they're available in India now, but we get braille labeled cups and things like that. So if you were to choose, let's say, if somebody was buying a set on Amazon, there are a set of 4 or whatever that is available. What most commonly are the sizes that you think in terms of, you know, cups and spoons? 1 cup, 2 cup, half cup?
It only tells 1 cup, half cup, 3/4 and 1/4. So these are the basic cups I have seen in India. But whereas when I bought something from abroad, they had that 1 cup had 3/4 measurement in it and half.
I see.
So
So when you
people
touch
miss
it
on the
inside, the
3/4
marking
cup.
is there. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that people and 2/3 measurement. So these are very fancy. We are not looking at that right now. We are looking basic.
Yes.
Basic, you just Google and you just put in saying measuring cups. That's a standard thing. That is a very standard cups you get. You have to get them because a lot of measurements, Payal, people kind of suggest, like if you go through an American recipe, they talk about sticks, they talk about cup
Correct.
measurement.
Yes. And the Britishers talk about pounds all the time.
Correct. Yeah. So conversion sometimes is very difficult. We say, no, now it's okay. I'll just use the cup. So
and for us also, it's just simpler in case it's marked. Usually the cups that I use, I have them, like I said, braille labels, but they have markings inside also. I've seen some of the regular cups also that you get that have markings. If you touch it, you sort of have an idea.
You can. Yeah. You have. I have one set which is marked that I can feel and tell that, yes, it's a 3/4 cup or it's a 1/2 cup.
Right.
And then
what
you
about
have
weighing
standard
scales?
spoons.
Weighing scale.
Weighing scale, yes. Weighing scale, please remember, weighing scale is a scale where you are going to get is to weigh the food, not yourself. So you have to get a food weighing scale which is put on the counter, right?
We get talking weighing scales. There are talking weighing scales available. So they have basically digital weighing scales that have an audio feedback. Yes. So that's for more precise.
So if you can find smaller, nice quality, again, because weighing scales, Payal, they stay back if you maintain them. Yeah.
Accuracy is a big issue also.
Correct. So weighing scale, of course, is the most important. See, baking mein, Payal, you have to be accurate. You cannot say, oh, it says half a cup, I'll put 1/4 cup. No. It says half cup, you have to put half cup in it. That is the rule in baking.
Yes.
If it says, 10 grams of something, you don't put 9 grams. Be precise. When you learn to be precise about measurements, I'm telling you, your recipe will come. It rocks. It is always, people always come to me and say, oh, the recipe, you gave it to me, instead of, 1 cup of sugar, I put half cup because I'm conscious about it. I said, no, it won't work. Please remember, it will not work, Payal.
Yeah,
it is not food. It is not a regular food. What namak taste karo, mirchi taste karo.
अंदाज नहीं चलता.
अंदाजा से नहीं होएगा. यहाँ नहीं होता.
Right. So these are essentials, weighing scale for more precise, down to the last gram measurements. It's absolutely necessary. And also, while we are talking about measuring, can you take us through, terms when we read in the recipe? We read 1 cup packed flour, 1 cup loosely packed sugar, level teaspoon. तो ये terms बहुत सुनने को मिलते हैं हमको. तो एक थोड़ा हमको, if you can let us know what we should expect when we hear terms like this, since we're talking about measurements, I think that would be wonderful.
Yes, basic here is, Payal, when you measure anything, okay, you take the whole thing in that cup. Fill the cup, okay? Fill it, even if it's a heap, fill it up, okay? Tap it and the whole cup should be filled.
Right.
Then take a spoon or a knife or whatever, then level it, okay? And that is a measurement. That is how you have to measure using your cup or even a spoon. When you're taking a measuring spoon, please take the whole thing in the spoon, take a heap, then take a small spoon or whatever and level it.
Matlab you can just run your finger across it also. Upar se some of them. Yeah.
That is the thing. When you're saying packed, there are a lot of recipes, recipes like making a dessert cake. When you want a brown sugar, what happens is brown sugar, they kind of want to be packed tightly. Usme dal ke daba, they press it down.
Right.
So that is a packed. It has to be, so the whole bowl should be full.
Right.
It's not like नीचे से खाली है, ऊपर है, ऐसे नहीं.
और पूरा tightly अंदर भरा हुआ होना चाहिए.
Correct. Then, as you said, you take your finger and whatever is leveling.
But uska converse, when somebody is asking you for just 1 cup of flour And if we decide to pack the flour, that flour will become about 1.5 cups of flour if we pack it. वो भी होता है.
Yeah, but I somehow don't believe in packing flour. Please
Correct,
remember,
correct.
I don't know people want to do that. But,
No, but that's also a
remember
mistake.
something-
That's what I'm trying to say.
It's a
That's
mistake.
also a
You should
mistake.
never do it.
Mhm.
Flour cannot be packed. Flour, just lift it, fill the cup, as I said,
Mhm.
and then
Take it off from the top. बस
Correct.
इतना. Okay, and
Correct.
even your baking powder, baking soda, I think all of these also need to be measured like this, like the spoon you mentioned. So basic rule of thumb is कि सबको पूरा पहले भरकर फिर उसके बाद हाथ या नाइफ या कुछ भी लेकर उसको ऊपर से एक्सेस को निकाल देना from the rim. बस उतना ही.
correct. Bas.
So that should take care of us.
Yeah.
And what about liquids? Most of these cups don't necessarily have ml. They say cups, and for us as blind people, we might not know कि 8 cup of dry raw material versus 8 cup of oil or milk or water or whatever. So is there any hack where we can sort of use the same cup but know that we have the right quantity in liquids as well? अब liquid को measure करना है तो कैसे होगा?
Basically, when I studied as a pastry chef, we were never taught to do anything in ml. We do everything in grams. Okay. So there are recipes which talk about mls all the time. Maybe then you probably have to look for ways.
I think वो conversion
convert,
देखना
yeah.
पड़ेगा हमको.
Yeah, then you put your bowl and then put that ml part.
But liquids
If
also
it's
in
one
grams?
cup. Yeah, we only do in grams. We never do in
Oh really?
ml.
Oh,
So
that's
none
good.
of my cordon bleu recipes ever talk about mls.
Oh, excellent. Okay.
Yeah, everything goes in liquid.
So then that's fine. So once we need to figure it out as we go along, I'm sure we'll be able to understand. This was just out of my own curiosity. मेरे दिमाग में था. So I thought I'll ask. So this sounds fabulous. Abhi, now when we're working with all of this equipment that we've just spoken about, dealing with baking as such, you have given us the most important safety tip about the gloves, said about dealing with things carefully. What are the other safety aspects? Now we have a bunch of new bakers. Most of us are first time bakers. So what is the safety rules that we need to follow as first time bakers, using maybe even a hand blender, or using of course the oven and electricity, and using a sharp piece of equipment like maybe a knife if you're filling it with fruit or vegetable or something. So, and hot pans. What would you advise us?
So the basic advice all the time, I always think when you're opening an oven, please make sure, you just have your gloves on, put it in the middle rack, and using a stove, always turn it off and then touch your bowl with a good quality cloth or this thing. And most important thing is, most of the times you don't need a knife for baking other than cutting a butter. Butter is anyway you're going to use.
And that's a different thing. Yeah, that's a butter knife. It's a dull knife, really. So.
No, agar it's cold also, no, Payal, leave it on. Just leave it on the counter for some time, and then you can just take a butter knife, as you said, and cut it. You don't have to use a knife in terms of a sharp knife. Yes, now there are a lot of knives, Payal, which have come for the, if a child has to use and she wants to cut the thing, a butter, there are a lot of knives which are not sharp that they cut your hands.
Right.
So I'm not sure if I'm answering your question, but I can think right now about safety is, fire and knife. So fire is the most important, is you have to turn it off and then bring your bowl or a vessel out. And oven, you should not see the problem with oven or an OTGs. You cannot, once you preheat it, you can't turn it off. Right. So I always suggest, go on a middle rack, put it on the middle rack. You can't go on the top. Go in the middle rack. We always bake in middle rack.
Right.
So just put it in the center so that you don't touch those coils around.
Right. Yes. Niche bhi aur upar bhi. Both sides there are coils.
And always wear your gloves. Don't say, this is just a batter, tin, it won't hurt me. No, that won't hurt. But your hand, which is going into the oven, will hurt
Right.
without your gloves.
Correct.
So
Correct.
please remember, always use your gloves.
And you also
Just
suggested,
put on-
I remember, you were just now also saying, okay, turn the mains off when you're opening the oven and touching anything because of the open coils in an OTG.
Correct.
You say okay, that can also catch fire. I remember you specifically told me that
Yeah.
they can catch
So
fire.
I had this experience because when I started baking, I also got an OTG.
Mhm.
And though luckily I had my gloves, I just put my hand in it and suddenly I realized that coil touched the gloves and it was on fire.
Oh gosh.
Because I was very quick, I just took it off.
Mhm.
You know, these are some things you have to be careful. There's a coil in the OTG which is more evident than oven. Oven
Right.
is a more, better form of baking. Or, people can just, as I said, use a stove, put a large bowl with mud in it, let it heat it up, really hot it has to be. Then you put your cake tin and cover it.
But that
But
is
then
also
there is
time.
a
It's
risk.
taking that much gas also.
Yeah.
No? I mean, it
Gas,
occupies
and I always wonder what happens if the sand goes in there.
that too, and then it's also scary. Imagine that hot sand. Imagine if it tips. For people like us who are not seeing it, there's a large bowl of hot sand. Imagine if the balance tips. Oh God, that's disastrous. I think everybody, after listening to you, will perhaps, for those that are seriously looking at beginning to bake and know that you're going to be helping us walk through the baking experience, will definitely look at investing at least in an OTG. I remember you also suggested a lot of people nowadays buy, convection ovens because they just say कि स्पेस बच जाता है और सब कुछ एक ही में हो जाता है. तो any opinion? हाँ, माइक्रोवेव कन्वेक्शन ओवन.
हाँ, उसमें है ना अभी. There are a lot of these. See, Payal, I won't know much about microwave because I'm very sorry. I'm very against microwaves.
Right.
I don't see a logic of heating food with so much of heat and causing radiation in food. So I don't have a microwave, but there are a lot of friends who keep asking me, oh, I have a setting where I can make a cake. But remember one thing, microwave only gives you heat from the top or maximum from the bottom. I've never seen. But I don't think it can cover onto the sides. Even if it covers on the side, I have experienced this, the cake in the center never cooks.
Right.
That setting is something the expert has to figure out. I cannot talk more, but there are a lot of microwaves which have this setting. People can figure out, then maybe that is a better option.
But for us, what happens is, I've often in a lot of conversations that we've had about microwaves and things like that, most of us see the microwaves that we get in general are not accessible enough. के मतलब buttons नहीं रहता, कुछ नहीं रहता. All of them are, सिर्फ वो touch screens है. That in itself is a challenge. ऊपर से उसका अगर हमको settings change करना पड़े, तो a lot of my friends also find it very difficult to change those settings. So I think the only reason that one might want to look at, a multi-purpose microwave oven would be space. कि दो अलग pieces of equipment रखने की जगह एक ही रख लेंगे, उसमें काम हो जाएगा. So a lot of people, I think, सबका थोड़ा सा वो भी.
Yes, that is the cheap and the best option. Aluminium tins. All you have to do is butter it, dust it, or put a parchment or a butter paper. Butter paper sometimes can't be baked on 200 degrees. So I prefer something called a parchment. So
is parchment thicker or butter paper, or what is it?
So the parchment I have at home, which I use, is not very thick as like the butter paper. That's what I make out the difference, but I may be wrong, Payal, because these are the things which when I travel or when I see, I just pick up. So I'm very clear on buying.
It doesn't burn, but it won't stick and it won't burn and all when you're using it.
But when I'm doing a sourdough bread, I don't want to use a butter paper because it will definitely, it doesn't withstand that heat. 200 degrees is what we bake, right?
Correct.
180, 170, 160 is still okay. I doubt if it can take 200.
हाँ,
I
तो
may be
मतलब
wrong,
better
but-
option is parchment paper, और अगर नहीं होता तो then just butter and dust it properly with flour and whatever it is.
Yeah, and nice tins. Yeah, they're inexpensive. They come in different sizes, different shapes, and very easy to wash. Keep them clean, right? There are options other than that. As you said, there are silicone molds, there are Teflon ones, there are a lot of them. But,
Silicone are a pain. Silicone are really a bother because I've tried using silicone and they are very difficult to handle. मतलब they are so shaky. उसके अंदर बैटर डालने के बाद में उसको बैलेंस करना impossible हो जाता है.
हाँ, उसके लिए फिर एक प्लेट लगाना पड़ेगा नीचे. लेकिन you know, अभी when my daughter baked when she baked last week, Payal, I gave her a silicone mold. Though
Right.
I'm not a fan of silicone mold because she doesn't have to break her head buttering it,
Correct.
putting
वो
the
भी
butter
है.
paper
Yeah.
or something. She just had to brush little oil on it or whatever butter and make sure your tins or silicone molds, anything has to be washed clean. Please.
Yeah.
Let them dry. You have to wipe them and put your whatever ingredients or batter in it. So I gave her that. She just quickly buttered it. She put her batter. उसके नीचे एक छोटा सा प्लेट लगा के ओवन में लगा दिया. So that's very easy.
When you say प्लेट लगाना, उसको ओवन के अंदर प्लेट लगाकर करते हो?
हाँ, मैं तो
Oh, really?
स्टील प्लेट भी लगा देती हूँ.
Oh, really?
You don't
Okay.
have to, yeah.
अच्छा, मेरे को वो नहीं मालूम था. I didn't know you could put that because I tried using silicone mold, but I found it very shaky. तो मैंने फिर उसके बाद use ही नहीं किया. I have cupcake molds as well. I'm sure a lot of people, खासकर जो छोटे bowls, cupcakes वगैरह वो होते हैं, that it's just easier to handle those क्योंकि उसको peel off किया and it comes off for the cupcakes at least. So this is, I didn't know you could put plates. So this is information for me as well.
Just put any plate, you know. I to put any steel plate in it. Though people say, how can you put oven में तो चल जा रहा है. I am not sure about OTG. OTG में भी when I was using, I remember I used to put a steel
I think
plate.
OTG में भी चलेगा because OTG के अंदर in any case the tray is steel. नीचे का the drip tray is steel. The other tray also is steel. सब stainless steel ही है ना. OTG में भी the rack also is steel. So
कुछ नहीं है तो उसमें racks भी आते हैं and trays भी आते हैं ना. एक तो tray आता है शायद.
yes है वही मैं बोल रही हूँ. उसके अंदर है सब steel ही है. So that
silicone. Yeah, silicone is a beautiful option, an expensive option, but easier. That's what I meant. You don't have to break your head by just greasing it, you know, or sorry, dusting करो या वो करो.
और उसमें भी चिपकने का डर रहता है. सब करने के बाद भी 5 मिनट लगाने के बाद भी you'll see some from one corner it would have gotten stuck because you've missed it somewhere. या कुछ भी इस तरह से हो जाता है. So that becomes a problem as well.
But my option will stay an aluminum. I am a very strong supporter of everything going into baking. Is, you know, like silicone also has some things which absorbs in your food. So anyways, but that's a different story.
But then that's okay. So keep it also, you keep it to the basics. Now, that is another important thing. Okay?
So when you're buying anything, when you're buying anything, just buy basic. You don't have to say, I want to make a, square cake. You know, squares are very, very, initially square is something, if you're just doing a basic cake is different.
Right.
But if you're doing a nice chocolate cake, you're making a square cake, it's a difficult, dicey thing. Get some nice round ones, you know, around 8 inches. See, the standard size, every recipe will talk, is a 9-inch tin.
Right, exactly. I was just going to ask you that. You've answered me before I could ask. What is the standard size? Okay.
So it's a 9-inch. Basic, any recipe you look at, you know, they'll say use a 9-inch tin. Then you want to do smaller cakes, then you have all the sizes. You have sizes till, you know, a 20-inch also, a larger cake. So what suits you better is what you have to get. But always keep in mind, get 2.
Absolutely. And you have to keep in mind the size of your own oven as well. But actually,
you
go and buy something बहुत बड़ा आ गया और वो oven के अंदर बैठने के बाद में oven का rack झुकने लग गया तो वो भी एक problem
You will
है.
be disappointed. Yeah.
Wonderful. This has been such an enlightening conversation, Chef. This is absolutely wonderful. I think this is going to be a great start. हमारे listeners के लिए ये सब basic जो आपने tips दी हैं, these are going to work really well. So listeners, this is it for now. आज का episode यहीं तक. Chef Priya Bhupal, thank you so much for really thinking this through and spending time with us. आगे जाकर we are going to be picking your brains a lot more for many more things because we want to make bakers out of ourselves. And
my pleasure, Payal. Anytime. I am here. I love to teach. I want. I love to teach. So I am going to, whatever questions you have, whatever you want me to do, I'm just there.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Thank you. So आज का ये रसोई के रहस्य का एपिसोड बेकिंग पर यहाँ तक ही. हमारा बेसिक्स ऑफ बेकिंग. आगे चलकर बहुत कुछ और आएगा. जुड़े रहिए हमारे साथ और सुनते रहिए रसोई के रहस्य. आपको पता ही है हमारे साथ आप लोग जुड़ेंगे फेसबुक और इंस्टाग्राम पर.
तो अगले एपिसोड में फिर मिलते हैं. तब तक के लिए अलविदा एंड थैंक यू फॉर लिसनिंग.